Juliet, really nice to see you. It's been a while.
It has.
Obviously, I haven't seen you in person for a while, and now we're talking like this. First of all, how are you? Everyone all right? Everyone safe in your family and everyone okay?
Yeah, everybody's safe. Getting used to working from home full time, because obviously done flexibility before, but this is quite full on, quite
Yeah,
intense
yeah.
actually. But everybody's well. So yeah, trying to figure out how to make this work going forwards.
Getting cups of tea from your husband, is that right? Is it sorting
No,
out?
I have to build in tea gaps in my diary because we're up in the attic, so it
Right.
means it's quite a long way down to the kettle.
Um, let's start where I have started with most of the CEOs I've talked about, which is, did you ever plan? I mean, you have business resilience plans. Every CEO does. Did you
Yeah.
ever think of something like this?
I mean, we've thought of taking the whole company working from home before, but not as a relation to this. No, I mean, I think obviously we actually, our offices are on a river and they flood quite often.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So we have we have thoughtfully built in resilience, and actually it's come out of our staff wanting to have more flexible lives and being able to attract good people. So, but not this scenario. No.
No. Talk me through what happened. So obviously, I don't know whether you had been talking to other CEOs, getting some idea that this lockdown could happen, or whether you reacted once the lockdown was announced. But moving 300 people to home working is a big logistical affair. Can you explain what you did and how it all came about?
I think we were talking about the impacts of COVID and thinking about what advice we should give our staff in terms of obviously their travel plans in a couple of months beforehand. And in fact, I was away and kind of experienced it firsthand in Asia. So I kind of had some inkling in terms of what things might look like and how it might work, and particularly sort of when schools are closed, what impact that would then have on our workforce. So we've done some thinking, but I have to say we obviously hadn't planned fully for what we ended up with. But we did. We basically, the day after lockdown got announced, we sent everybody home so that we could make a decent plan. Because what I didn't want is people coming into the office and being nervous without them thinking that we thought about social distancing properly in the office. We got as many people home working as possible. So we took a day, and actually the team did an amazing job of turning around. So we got the majority of people home working within a day. VPN issues. We had been practicing actually the last couple of weeks before, because we knew it would happen. So we made sure one of the key things is to make sure people take their power leads home.
Yes, absolutely.
A laptop. And there were people whose power leads went missing. So
yeah.
that was bizarrely was one of the crucial issues, is making sure people had a power lead. And then making sure they understood how to use, we have a VPN system, so making sure they could get on that, they practiced it. But it never really totally prepared you for it. And then by the end of the week, our IT team did a sterling job. They built laptops so we could get everybody home by the Friday. And that's what we did. And everybody pulled together. We'd had flexible working for a while, so we've been practicing with it. And it meant that, but I think actually the bigger shock came a couple of weeks afterwards of people getting used to working from home. That almost was the bigger impact. The physicality of getting everybody home was amazing, and I think the team did an amazing job of getting us there.
What about things like cyber security? You have customers, their details,
Yeah.
Call center staff working from their homes now,
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff. How did you arrange that logistics side of the equation?
So a lot of that is around training and making sure that they've thought about it. They've understood that they can't just leave their laptop open unlocked at home because it may have customer information on it. So I think also being aware of where your laptop is. Can somebody see it from outside? Are you standing next to a window or sitting next to a window? So those GDPR kind of training we rolled out pretty immediately. And that is just mainly about making people thoughtful. Obviously, the IT security around it was embedded already. So because we had remote working and we've been practicing with remote working, that was part of what we'd already had in place. But it was the human side that we needed to reinforce. And we continue to do so, because as you know, with training, it's not a one-stop shop. It has to be enforced, and people have to understand the different situations and get different feedback. So that's what we've been working. I mean, we've done a lot of training on GDPR for the last 2 years, a lot of reminders, a lot of people going online, so doing the electronic training. So I'm not saying we're perfect, but I think we were pretty well prepared on that.
The human element is the hardest element, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we're used to going to offices, even though you're fairly flexible kind of group, but you're suddenly in isolation. You're in isolation. Some people with families and all the pressures that brings. Some people living on their own. You know, and that's a big thing. What are you doing around the kind of, I wouldn't say just mental health side, but the kind of just welfare for your staff who are, you know, it's a big shock to be disjointed from what you've known.
Yeah.
How are you coping with that?
So we were very lucky before COVID. We'd done a whole piece around mental health first aiders in the business. And
Right.
we had an enormous number of people volunteer. So we had about 67%, 30% of the business volunteered for mental health work training. So we've got a pretty established set of people within the organisation already who are mental health first aiders. So we've used that as a network to make sure we reach out and talk to those people to understand what else we could be doing as an organisation. I think the other thing is we've upped the number of briefings that we do to the whole business. So we just had a team brief this morning, about sort of 50–60% of the business dialed into that team brief. So we give an update as a senior team to tell them what we're doing, what we're up to. So they get that visibility and contact back to the organisation. And then we're asking people to watch out for their colleagues, make sure they look after them. And also trying to get guidance out to people, because one of the things is making sure people don't panic when they read the news. I mean, obviously it is an incredibly serious situation, and we need to be very conscious of how we give advice to our staff, but making sure that they don't watch the news all the time, because that really does
kind of affect you. Yeah.
And making sure people can keep talking and they've got those forums. The other thing we put in place was we put some exceptional leave in place, because the other thing we recognise is a lot of our team are parents, and obviously with the schools closing, that's added particular challenging to parenting. So we've given everybody an exceptional week's holiday if they have kids or dependents, and there also the flexibility to buy more holiday during this period, so that people can look after their dependents as well as deliver what they need to.
There's kind of, I don't know if you felt this, some CEOs have said this to me, that they're running two businesses. They're running the COVID reaction business and their real business as well. How are you coping?
So I think I've got a fantastic senior exec team to a certain extent who really are running the COVID business today. They've done a lot of the responsiveness to immediate challenges, getting people home, monitoring what's going on with our customers, looking after our customers, communicating to our customers, and then making sure that we're looking at cash and cash preservation at this point. So I think that gives me the opportunity to really think, okay, so what's the longer term impact of this? Because for me, that's what I think we're seeing right now is almost the tip of the iceberg. I think we're in a relatively comfortable place actually right now as a society, because we've got government supporting everybody who's not working. The issue is going to be, what is the fallout? How many of those businesses come back afterwards and offer employment? And then how many people are out of work sort of longer term? And that for me is the real challenge, and making sure that we are responding to that from a proposition point of view, thinking about how do we deliver value to our customers longer term? How do we make sure we're making them as prepared as possible for this longer term situation? And then also thinking through some of the challenges from a green environment and green economy point of view, seeing whether there's opportunities there to make sure that we can grow more sustainably as a society.
What about furloughing? Has that come up as a conversation that you need to do, or is it? I mean, some energy companies have, some haven't, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one for any boss to look at it.
It is a tough one. I mean, my personal point of view and is that we have to take responsibilities as businesses. So as a utility, we provide energy. Right now, although we will be impacted, we're not as impacted as much as the high street.
Yeah.
So my personal view is furloughing should really be for those who are properly affected by COVID.
Yeah.
And we have taken the decision so far. We have tried to redeploy all our team on work. If some of their work is reduced as a result of this situation, we're redeploying them within the business to support on the front line or support customer services. Because I genuinely believe if you can, you shouldn't be COVIDing.
I prefer that. I know, I agree with you, but it's been seen. We've seen it with the football clubs. We've seen a lot of that. It's been used as a get out of jail clause. But
and what we're worried about is it's seen as a cheap way of making people redundant.
Yeah,
I think my personal point of view is that I hope the government comes down quite strongly on any company that isn't using this appropriately. I mean, there are obvious jobs in the industry. So there's a lot of the meter readers who cannot go out and shouldn't be going out. And there's a lot of the sort of teams that should only be working on emergencies in this situation. Completely valid reasons for furloughing some of those staff. But as far as I'm concerned, I've got a bunch of customers that we need to be looking after. And that is where I'm focusing my teams to make sure that work is done.
Some have said that, and I don't want to sound glib about this, but we're in an experiment. We're in an experiment that we never wanted to be in, and it's not a realistic experiment because we don't have an economy at present right now in the way it normally would function. But we are seeing the environmental benefits of much reduced human activity. What do you think we might learn after this, and what do you think it might do to this pathway to net zero and the shift of where humans now as a society start to question really what impact they're having? Because that's always been, and you've been in this game for a long time about the kind of good energy. The name says it all. And it's probably been a tick box for a lot of people. Oh yeah, it's quite nice, I'll have that, it sounds good to have some renewable power, whatever. But do you think this might make a shift in actually how we think?
I think it has to. I mean, I cannot imagine that people are going to come away from this having experienced doing interviews like this, having experienced, we gave all our investor presentations remotely. We have to have an AGM in the year. We're looking at potentially doing that remotely. Now, sort of last year, we wouldn't even considered that. But if that's a reality, then suddenly you kind of go, well, if people are accepting of this and they accept that we can do things in a different way, we should take something good out of this situation, which is obviously hugely tragic. We should look for it's our responsibility to see what benefits we can take forward for society as a whole. And I think the first thing will be, can we work more remotely? Because we're proving that we can, and each week as we go on, I have to say the first couple of weeks was quite hard work. But now actually we just did a briefing, as I said, with the whole team. It was the best we've had, and we're beginning to see because of the nature of it, we're beginning to see a lot more voices coming through. People get more confidence, actually.
Yeah, that's an unusual thing, isn't it? Yeah. And also, I mean, I don't know how old your staff are, but if they're of a younger generation, they're much more comfortable communicating like something like this than saying something in a meeting, aren't they?
Yeah, no, completely. And so, and we're seeing people congratulate other teams rather than always having to come from the top. We're seeing each team recognize how good they are. And for me, that's so bonding and really exciting. And so, yeah, I completely believe that we should rebuild this economy as a green economy. I think, one, it will have more resilience for future major scale events, because the more power you can generate as a country, the more power you can generate as an individual, the more control you've got over heat and electricity, two of the main pieces. I mean, for me, what this really does is it reduces us to what are the four key things that we need. We need heat, we need light, we need food, and we need water. And if we can do those in a more long-term sustainable way, we are going to be able to face anything like this again more confidently as a society. And I think that's really exciting. I also think we're going to reconnect with nature more than ever before, as you talked about the fish, and just that opening up of possibility of what a future could look like if we live our world in a more sustainable way.
I can hear the birds in my garden for the first time in ages. There's no cars going. I haven't heard a plane for weeks. And
Yes.
it is different. What about specifically, before we end, what do you think the energy sector will do at the end of this? Because there will, without doubt, there will be some casualties, but there will also be opportunities. But you know, we now know how critical our sector is. We are the key. Without energy, there is no power for those hospitals. There's no power for anything, for the food that we're getting, or any of the communication we've got right now. So, do you think this might sharpen thinking in the energy sector to say it's always been slightly in the background, let others lead? Do you think energy might come to the fore after this?
Well, I would hope so, and I would hope that we as an industry can come forward with a resilience sustainability plan that is cohesive in this position. So if you look at for me, one of the key things right now is if we had smart metering across the country effectively working, we would be dealing with this situation much better. We would understand what is happening to demand immediately, and we would be able to look after customers in a much more effective way. So that's number one. I also think that last weekend we saw wind and solar being the number one generator in the UK. Now, who would have thought that? And so suddenly it's like, wow, we dropped demand by 10%, I think, in the UK, and we saw renewables come to the fore, and we can do it. So again, building that confidence about a future looks much more renewable, and if it is more renewable, what does that mean for our country? And I think it is the responsibility of the industry to stop trying to stop things and push things forward now, because I do believe in a system approach. We need a better system approach to this. We can actually deliver low carbon, more resilient Britain, more security from a security of supply. And this is a real opportunity to take that leadership now.
Excellent. And to end with, how are you? How are you coping with it all?
Yeah, I must admit, the first 2 weeks took a while to adjust, and as I said, it's quite intense. So I'm used to going to get a cup of tea from outside my room. There's an automatic hot water thing, so it's always on. So now I've got to go downstairs, boil a kettle, and so actually,
because you're quite a visible leader, I know you, and I know the way you like to work. That must be quite weird that you're having to interface with your staff through this.
Yeah, that is a little odd, and you spend a lot of time looking at yourself, which is also quite distracting. So yes, that's that. But what I've taken to doing is kind of just posting. We've got quite a good intranet where I post some stuff about what I'm up to, and I do get feedback from that, so that's quite nice. And we can see I've started to become my own film editor. So
careful.
Taking videos, so the poor teams are now. I've just about managed to upload them onto the system. But yeah, doing just experimenting in terms of how you do leadership during this period, and figuring it out. And really, actually, I think the immediate feedback, that sort of norming and storming of the first 2 weeks was fairly painful. But actually, I think I've learned a huge amount over these last 2 weeks about what works and what really doesn't work, and I'm hugely grateful for that. Actually.
Excellent. Well, Juliet, it's been a pleasure as ever, and stay safe. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you, and you too.